This is the brain. This was the brainchild of Tom Kundig, the architect of the Bo Bartlett Center from Seattle, from Olson Kundig. He had the idea to have a central space, a little cube within the exhibition space of the center, where all of the ideas and the workings of the brain could be in here. So we had a lot of archives of sketchbooks, journals, photos, detritus, memorabilia, things that I've collected my whole life, because I can't let anything go. Everything has meaning for me. So what we've done is we've organized it here in the brain in a somewhat chronological order, not in a didactic way, but in a very open form, free way. So at the beginning here, you have photographs from my childhood, things like my childhood Bible, my White Sox cap from when I was a bat boy at the Columbus White Sox, and comic books and JAMA covers from my mom gave me. My mom worked at the Columbus Medical Center, and so she was a librarian, and she'd bring home covers from the Journal of American Medicine. And so these all had art on them. They had Andrew Wyeth, they had Norman Rockwell, they had Picasso. And so this was an art education for me. So I have some of these, we have some of the journal covers here. I love stamps that made me think about the outside and the larger world. We were Baptists, my parents were Baptists, so there was a lot of Jesus imagery. There's journals from when I first went to Florence at 18, and I started keeping a journal from my trip in Florence. So I studied there with Ben Long. I was looking for someone to study with, and I started asking around. And someone said the best artist in Florence is named Ben Long. So I went and knocked on his door. I was 18 and very nervous. And Ben, who turned out to be an American from North Carolina, who was a vet, an Army vet, he'd gone over there to study with Pietro Annigoni, the great Italian fresco painter. So there are drawings here in sketchbooks that I did when I was first learning to draw. I mean, they're actual drawings of when I learned to draw with Ben Long. He'd sit me down in front of a skull or a root and have me draw it for 8 hours a day. And there's sequences here which actually have the sequence from when I didn't know how to draw at all to hit with his writing on the edge of the paper, telling me what changes I needed to make so that I could start to make it look and feel like the thing I was actually seeing. The studies from the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. I went from Florence to Philadelphia and studied with Nelson Shanks, that's his palette. Journal entries, my graduating from the Pennsylvania Academy, my first show at Marion Locke's in 1981, 82, and beginning of filmmaking. When I got interested in filmmaking, I went to NYU to study film in 85, 86. A bunch of journals, some drawings here that just show you the process of drawing. Here's a photo of Ray Johnson. This is actually a piece by Ray Johnson. It's two-sided. There's something else on the back as well. There's a deer head from my father. My father shot that deer. I'd go deer hunting with my dad when I was a kid, and he would take me out and put me up in a tree and tell me to wait for the deer. I remember one time I was there and this deer came running. It was a beautiful morning and the deer came running through the corn and you could hear its feet hitting the dried corn as it ran through. And it got right below me and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I was supposed to point my gun at it and shoot it, and I just looked at it and just said, "Get out of here." I never went back hunting again after that. 3 sons, Will, Man, and Elliot. Elliot passed away, but these are some references and photos of my children and life with the family. And I won a Pew in 1993 and made Snow Hill, the film on Snow Hill. I actually had made Snow Hill before I won the Pew, so by the time I won the Pew and I had the resources to go paint, I was really ready to go and paint again. But I spent several years working on this film with Andrew Wyeth. I had a bad review in New York Times, actually, Roberta Smith, and I think that was 1990, early 1990s, when Betsy Wyeth called me on the phone and she'd seen the review and she invited me out to Chad's Ford to sort of console me, I think. But it turned out that she invited me. She saw in my catalog that I had made films, and she said, "Well, I want to make a film on Andy." So I spent the next several years 5 years total, working on this film Snow Hill with Andrew Wyatt. I spent a long time doing this. I spent like 3 months doing this, all day, every day. And I had to go through all of the letters and all of the sketchbooks and all of the journals and decide what could be safe for public view and what wouldn't be safe for public view. And I wanted to tell a story. So if you take the time and start over here and read through the journals and read through all the entries from this side, going back to that side, along that wall, it actually tells a story from the beginning to the end. And that's one of the great things about what I enjoyed about doing this was being able to put your whole life out there in this one little cube, which explains the process that you have had in your life to this point, and the way the brain works. That's actually my brain. Yep, and that's an MRI of my brain, which reveals my pituitary tumor that I've had, according to my doctors, since childhood. So it could possibly be related to the petit mal seizures, or that sense of Alice in Wonderland syndrome. I'm not sure, but I learned a lot about the process because I went blind during that time when I had my pituitary tumor. So I learned a lot about the process of the way the brain works. One of the things that I learned was, this is fascinating, it's called Bonnet syndrome, that if you have sight and then you go blind, the brain remembers everything it's ever seen, like just encyclopedic, the way the brain remembers everything. It's got a slide for everything that you've ever seen. That's why you can dream and see very realistic things. But when you lose your sight, the brain's searching really hard to make sense out of whatever it's seeing. And you can't see very well, everything's sort of blurry, so it's putting those slides in place. So and we were on the island, and I was having trouble with my vision, and I was going blind. And we were going from the island to shore, and we were on a boat, and Betsy looked out there and said, look, there's a boat. And in my brain, I saw a sailboat. And I saw it perfectly in my eyes. I saw a sailboat. And she said, no, it's not a sailboat. And I said, oh, it's a lobster boat. And she said, no, it's not a lobster boat. And so I was thinking, like, well, what else could it possibly be? I'm seeing something. It feels a little foggy, but I'm seeing something. And then I said, it's a ferry. It's a ferry boat. And she said, yeah, it's a ferry. But she knew at that point that I really had a problem. And it turned out that it was a ferry, but I didn't know at that point if I was seeing the ferry that was really there or if I was just seeing something that was, I thought, well, finally my vision cleared. Now I'm seeing it properly. But the brain fills in. The brain is just constantly filling in. It thinks it knows, it's remembered everything it's ever seen, so it just can fill in. And so not only that, that's called the Bonnet syndrome, where your brain is filling in when you've had sight and then you lose it. Because we have to make sense out of the world. Otherwise, it's just, we're crazy, it's chaos. But I also learned that I don't have a left vertebral artery, and that's an anomaly from birth. And so the blood has to flow through the right side of my brain, and so that's why it just takes a little longer to get to the left side. So it takes a little longer to get to the analytical side, the verbal side. And that's why I live in a visual world, and that's why I'm a visual artist, because it's biological. It's just my biology.